Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's YAWA. We are here to answer some questions, and I want to start off by saying thank you for everybody that sent us in questions, and how you sent them in is by commenting on last week's video. Type in YAWA question and what your question is, and that's where we're actually pulling the questions from. Now, if this is the first video that you are finding on our channel, definitely hit the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, and then open your eyes to the, hundreds of other videos that we have already available to you.
What he said. So, I'm going to ask the first question. From Sarah Lucas. We are getting our new GSP puppy this October. We live in central Pennsylvania, where October can be 80 degrees or 30 degrees on any given day. Do you have any advice on a water intro to a puppy you would get in mid-fall, early winter? Do you think having a delay intro to water, if it's too cold out, will have a negative effect on the dog's impression of water later on? So I thought this was a really good question, and I wanted to mention, even if the air temperature goes from 80 degrees to 30 degrees overnight, basically, today it's 80, tomorrow it's 30, and back and forth, gradually that water temperature is going to get colder and colder. And then when it is an 80-degree day, that water temperature still isn't going to be very warm. So that's something to keep in mind. Water temperature and air temperature, two different things. And definitely having a warm, nice day is important, but also having pretty warm, comfortable water for those water intros, especially with young puppies. You don't want too big of a shock to their system, anything that would be a negative association with that water.
I think that is the key in this situation, is making sure that the introduction is positive, and that takes the combo. You can't just say it's 80 degrees outside, but it's been cold, so the water's cold. And somebody was asking the other day about this specifically, and what I was able to kind of bring to their attention was like, would you get in that water? And like, well, it was kind of cold. I'm like,
and your puppy's not going to be as excited. And sure, there are exceptions to every rule. You're going to have puppies that are just so bold, confident, water-driven, water-loving dogs that they're just hopping in no matter what. And then you're going to have the other side of things that even if you have the perfect storm of optimum conditions for everything, your young puppy might still be hesitant and needs more time to become confident to get in the water. So overall, in general, my advice would be, if you're having some uncertainty about your water intro, the weather's not quite right, you've got a young puppy and it's October, November timeframe, honestly, what I would be doing with my puppy is I would be doing other important socialization and development things with that puppy, consisting of playing retrieving games, working on recall, continued socialization, just building a bold, confident puppy. And then come springtime, even if your puppy's a little bit older, even if they're 8 months old, 9 months old, 10 months old, a year, come back and come into the spring, hard charging, ready to go, getting in the water with your puppy and showing them how much fun it can be to get in the water and not have a negative experience with it at the end of the year when you might not have an opportunity to get back what you lost that year, and then you have to wait on it. I would say having a poor experience in the fall that then you have to sit on and wait until the spring when you can really have all those optimum conditions like I was talking about could have more negative effect than just waiting and building up your bold, confident puppy and then starting from scratch in the spring.
I think that goes hand in hand with a lot of things in dog training, but it's very accurate in this situation. And when we are talking about any of the big ones, but all of the ones, waiting for the optimal time is going to be a better idea than trying to rush something when it is suboptimal and setting your dog up for a bad experience.
Exactly. So great question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next question from Simon H. YAWA, do you think...
See what he did there?
YAWA.
Uh-huh. The last one do it?
Yeah, she said YAWA question.
YAWA question. So makes it very easy for us to find through the comments.
Pick out those questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible to train a dog for hunting through positive reinforcement only? I didn't really want to send him to be trained by someone else. I'm just paranoid that he won't be treated right. But I'm a softie when it comes to applying pressure in the ear or using the string on the toes or even using an e-collar. So first of all, it sounds like what you're specifically referring to is formal retrieving work with an ear pinch or a toe pinch or using the e-collar because you're specifically talking about those specific things. But I suppose any type of pressure on, pressure off training could be used in other areas of training.
Yeah, there's a few facets to what's going on here. First of all, you talked about wanting to use, is it possible to train with positive reinforcement only? So that's one section there. Then you said that you
don't really want to send them off.
Don't want to send them off because you don't trust someone. And that is a big thing. Just as a little caveat here, that's a big thing that we talked about when people say, well, how do I find a trainer? Or how would I do that? And trust is one of the specific things that we mentioned. You need to go there or talk to them, and you need to feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable with who you're considering, then it's not going to be the right situation. There's a lot of good dog trainers out there.
Ask for references. Ask for referrals. Read reviews. I mean, there are bad dog trainers out there. There's good dog trainers out there. Now, you also just have to keep in mind that some people, no matter what you do, are never happy, never satisfied, no matter what kind of customer service you've had for them. And they're going to get on the keyboard and warrior it up and talk bad about the situation. But you have to take that into consideration. And hey, if you're considering a trainer and you see a poor review about something, ask them about it. There's usually two sides to every story, and getting the full story would be better than making assumptions. But read reviews, ask for referrals if you are considering sending a dog off for training, and then ask questions of the trainer specifically and feel comfortable with them.
Now, let's say even if you were to eventually feel comfortable, whatever, you still want to take on that task yourself, which is awesome. A lot of people do. And I think there is a little bit of, well, probably not a little bit even, it's a lot of bit of a true feeling of accomplishment and the pride that you can put in the fact that we did this together. I think that if you send the dog to a professional trainer, it'll probably happen faster, maybe end up a little bit on the more polished side of things, but you lose that experience that you gain by doing it yourself that you can apply to your next potential dog and things like that. So there are pros and cons to both ways.
I do know that people sometimes have the best of intentions of getting this young puppy and doing it all themselves, and then they realize how big of a task that truly is, how much equipment is truly necessary to, train a dog right, well, efficiently, without making mistakes. So some of those great intentions end up falling off, and then you do seek professional help, or you get started on the path with maybe help from us on our online dog training community on Patreon, and you get up to a certain point that then you don't feel comfortable with, or you try and even with our guidance are still struggling a little bit, because it's not like I can necessarily reach through the computer and do it for you.
Exactly.
But you may end up deciding at that point you've gotten to a certain level and you're ready for actual professional help.
And what Kat was mentioning there was one of the most powerful tools that we have to offer you. We have all these videos, and those are fantastic, but ultimately the most powerful thing that we have to offer, even more than some knowledge, is our ability to read dogs and training situations, which we can do for you via our Patreon dog training community, patreon.com/Standing Stone Kennels. You can go there, upload videos to YouTube, share the links and a message explaining what's going on, and then we can help guide you in your training path. So if you're looking at doing it yourself, those would be things that are very beneficial. Now, to go back to the first part of the question, which was
positive only training for bird dogs.
For bird dogs. I'm going to say right now, I don't believe that it can truly be done because of the fact that negative reinforcement, which would be essentially the opposite of positive reinforcement, doesn't mean just what you were explaining or what you ask about with toe hitches or ear pinches or e-collars. Any form of pressure, whether that's a leash or a check cord or anything, all of those apply either positive punishment or potentially negative reinforcement. And they're a very valuable tool in providing some level of correction or ability to just guide a dog in the direction that you want them to go. So as far as doing, maybe what you meant more in your question was, can this be done without an e-collar? Sure, you're going to have situations where the dog's going to make up his mind as far as, I'm going to go do this, because they are prey-driven animals, and you put them in that environment and there's a bird, and that's going to completely cloud their mind, like almost a blackout type of situation sometimes. Dogs, that prey drive kicks in.
Especially young dogs that haven't had a ton of opportunities to work through that excitement.
And pulling that focus back to you without something is difficult. Way back in the day, pre-e-collars, one of the ways that guys did that was with rat shot or light loads or salt shot or something, and they would actually shoot the dog in the butt. Hey, don't chase that anymore. Okay, so
redirect their focus. Now
that's what it is. Redirect their focus.
Pay attention to what I'm asking you to do, not chasing that bird anymore.
I don't know how many people actually did that, but I've heard enough stories that was a thing that I'm sure it was a thing. Now,
have not been there, done that.
No.
So.
No.
Technology and training has come a long way. And for those of you that say, well, if technology and training has come so far, then why are we still using e-collars? Well, they are a very valuable, effective training tool when used properly.
Can it be done without? Yes, but it's not going to save you headaches. It's not going to put your dog in a better situation. It could actually put your dog in a more dangerous situation where you're in an area that they end up running out into a road and getting hit, because a lot of times we hunt along roads or road ditches or fields that are near gravel roads. And then your dog ends up in a road, gets hit by a car, and all of those things could have been prevented by utilizing the amazing tools that are available to us today. I mean, I can't imagine trying to do things back in the day pre-e-collars. Could it be done? Yes. With some dogs, it would be easier than other dogs, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, the e-collar is a really inexpensive and really powerful insurance policy, and essentially a long leash.
I would definitely be uncomfortable hunting truly any of our dogs without e-collars in some of the places that we do hunt, because of, we're in terrain that they're not familiar with. So falling off a cliff.
Yeah, well, even
is something that you have to be concerned about.
Big country, when we run GPS collars on, I mean, I have a specific story about that, which, I mean, the GPS collar isn't necessarily the training collar as well, but it's still technology that we are utilizing. And that's what we're trying to get at with the e-collars themselves, are technology to help everything move along. But in the situation, we were hunting public ground in Michigan, and the young dog, who hadn't been familiar with the area, had the Garmin on and got on a 2-track that somebody was buzzing by on an ATV, because it's public ground, right? So they saw the 4-wheeler and went, woo, let's go. And I looked down going,
we do free runs off of 4-wheelers.
Yeah, what the heck's going on? We're running as fast as we can, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400. And I was like, whoa, all of a sudden the dog's like 800-900 yards away, and seemed like it essentially ran this straight-ish line. And had I not had that collar, I was able to go to her, and it took a while to get up to them. And they eventually stopped and said, this dog's following us. We don't know what to do. We caught up to her, got the dog, brought her back. But it was one of those things that, on 2 respects, had I not had that collar, I don't know how long it would have taken to find her. We probably would have found her, but how long would it have taken? I don't know. So,
yeah, definitely a scary situation. But back to the whole, can you train a dog to be a hunting dog with just positive reinforcement training? Well, the whole point of operant conditioning is there are 4 quadrants with positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment, and they all have their place when it comes to training and their purpose. And there are parts of those that are to strengthen behaviors, and then there are other parts that are to weaken behaviors.
And diminish behaviors, yep.
So you want to think about your training and say, well, if all I'm using is positive reinforcement and treats, well, when the dog doesn't necessarily want to listen because they're more excited about something else, yep. Birds, wandering off, exploring,
distraction.
Yeah, anything that isn't higher value than what we're asking them to do for a treat at that point, they're going to ignore us. And in the wrong situation, that can be dangerous, first of all, as well as can be very counterproductive to advancing our training. So we need to be able to have an open enough mind to utilize all 4 quadrants of operant conditioning and using them properly, and not thinking, well, punishment is bad and negative is bad. No, those are just parts of an equation that add up to a well-trained dog that can be a safe hunting companion.
Now, when you look at the dog specifically, because I know somebody's going to come on here and say, I only use positive reinforcement to train my bird dog, yada, yada, yada. Put it in the comments below. We'll read it. The thing about that is when you are looking at other breeds of dogs, some dogs are bred to be more cooperative. Some dogs are bred to be more in tune to what you're doing. With a lot of bird dogs, in general, they're bred to be independent. I mean, that's a huge part of them being able to do their tasks. So training them not utilizing any form of negative reinforcement or correction can be fairly difficult because they're doing what they've been bred to do. We just need a way to be able to help them and handle them and talk to them in a way that we can pull that focus away from the distraction to get everything brought back around full circle. So,
and I know you said you're a softie, and again, it's not about over pressuring a dog or hurting a dog or anything like that, because what we're doing is we're trying to help the dog learn and succeed. And so we need to use
conditioning.
Yeah. And we need to use the lowest level of pressure stimulation, whether you're using an e-collar, a check cord, a leash, necessary to get the desired response that we're looking for out of the dog. And just like Ethan had mentioned earlier, so using an e-collar versus, let's say, even using a check cord or a leash, either of those things being used improperly can be damaging to a dog. Even just coming after a dog and physically handling them and saying, hey, knock it off. You're not supposed to break on that. You're not supposed to move, can intimidate that dog. And depending on their personality and their softness of temperament, yep, you have to determine what level pressure, even if it's that physical handling, can be used with each specific dog. And some dogs are bold and confident, and it takes more to get through to them. And some dogs are little softies, and you have to use very low levels. And so reading the dogs is really important so that you don't make a mistake. And every dog is different, even within a breed.
Yeah. And I know that I mentioned some breeds and things like that could use almost solely positive reinforcement training. I mean, but that's going to take that dog that's drastically more dependent. So they're constantly looking for how to please as opposed to looking for something to hunt. But even if you look at other breeds like cockers or labs, a majority, not all, a majority of that training could be done without an e-collar because, again, that dog's job is more relative to your location in the beginning stages. But I'm going to tell you right now, when you start doing some more advanced stuff and that dog does get out there, that same little cocker that's super cooperative and loves to work is going to chase a bird and want to chase it a long way. And you're not going to get them back until they're done chasing without a way to pull that focus back to you. So it's, and then the same thing from the Labrador or retriever world, not just labs, but you get into some of that advanced handling stuff and they make a mistake at a good distance, or you give them a cast or handle or something, they do the wrong thing or they change directions. You have no way to handle that until now you get them all the way back to you. And it's...
So it definitely wouldn't be an efficient way of getting training accomplished.
It's not. So. And all of that being said, I feel like there was one more part at the end of that, but just in
I'm a
respect
softie when it comes to applying pressure. Okay. So in using an ear or using the string on the toes or even using an e-collar.
So then last thing would be the ear pinch and toe hitch method. Again, those are tools that are utilized in a more specific type of training, which is going to be that formal retrieving work aspect of things most of the time. And when you start to incorporate those things, again, like any tool, training method, or anything else, it could be used improperly and not ideal. If you have or want to see more of how we utilize it in training, you can watch Legends Train Retrieve series that we just put out, and we show in there how we utilize a toe hitch for a form of negative reinforcement, and then to work through some fetch work. And you can see how it's not really as bad as it kind of seems. It's just another cue essentially to kind of help. When everything is taught with the e-collar, it can be a little bit confusing. So we teach different ways and apply different things as baby steps to move back to handling with the e-collar.
So great question. And I think that is all we're going to have time for in part 1 of this week's YAWA.
Awesome. We'll see you in just a little bit.